What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Johnny Nitafan, and today we got the single dad to six figures selling insurance from home. So I'm super excited. I was looking forward to this interview. Eric's only been in the industry for a little bit now. It's funny because actually his mentor, Oscar, I've had him on the channel, but it's funny because him and I remember him talking about you, and he's like, dude, I got this guy. He's going. Like, we just got to train him a little bit. He'll be good. And all of a sudden, like, keep hearing your name. And whenever him and I are talking, and all of a sudden, like, we're here, bro. So, how'd you find the insurance industry, by the way? Well, by the way, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on here.
No, I'm so pumped to be here. Like, I'm excited, and it's funny because it was right on as we got started, and not to sidetrack, but of like on your coattails a little bit, and it was like all these conversations of like, okay, well, what's Johnny doing? Is this what Johnny's doing? Like, okay, well, I think Johnny tried that and that sucked. Like, so let's try something different. And then it's like, hey, Johnny, guess what? This works, and it's like this this game of like telephone tag. Trying to figure out like, we're just like in the trenches, right? And I think it's so awesome. We were talking a little bit too, like if just, we get inundated with so much content from people who aren't actually selling and doing and building, and where they're like, they're at that penthouse and talking about it and in a whole totally different world. But I think for guys like us that are doing everything, we're selling, we're building, and we're doing this like in real time, like today, and tomorrow we're going to wake up and we're going to be building. And it's like, those are the guys like I really need to surround myself with who are doing it right, and have the right mindset, because man, this industry will suck you in and spit you out so fast.
Dude, right.
So yeah, anyway, so I guess you want me to answer? I'll answer how I got into insurance.
Yeah, man. How'd you find the insurance space, and what were you doing before? And yeah, how was that transition?
Yeah, so it's really funny getting into the industry that I absolutely had no idea what a premium was. I didn't even know that's what you called a monthly payment.
Yeah.
I think for most of my life, I've been in sales, right, in corporate America, and have in corporate America, just in many different ways, will suck you in and spit you out as well, right, as you try to climb the ladders, as you're fighting against the man, the machine, reports, disgusting Salesforce CRMs that you have to enter, all those things, right? So a lot of my life, I've worked for some startups. One of the fastest startups here in Raleigh, North Carolina, grew it. And a lot of it was like in hotel technology space. So had worked with all the big names and done some really cool things. Got to meet a lot of people, and so just a lifelong history of sales. And so Oscar, who you mentioned before, my mentor, who really, is who opened my eyes to this. And I also had another close friend that was local too, who was in the insurance world and was like really was on recruiting. And and it was with a group that everybody knows, and I almost made the leap. And then I got talking to Oscar, and I was like, hey, dude, like, I'm thinking about joining, those guys. Like, they just talk about how successful they are. And then he really like virtually over the phone slapped me in the face and was like, hey, dude, like, have they talked about like leads? Like, how are you getting leads? Like, where they're coming from? How old are they?
Yeah.
Like, how much do you need to sell to make money? Like, no, dude, they just talked about like, man, like
how much money you can make, right?
You can make so much money, man. Like, do you want to be on the beach with us today or what? Like, get your license, and then like, money just goes into your bank account, right? Like, that's how we feel this like all works somehow. And I think that's a lot of people get bought into it. And I talk to Oscar all the time about it too. Like, it's like, dude, man, like, I feel so bad. It's so many agents try to come in, and it's like they're screwed before they even get started, right? So, and so we talk a lot about that, man. Like, man, for new people coming in, like, set yourself up to where you have the ability to succeed. So anyways, back to how I got into it. Known us for like 18 years. And so, he became internet famous with, his agency that he was building, and, in the ACA world too, before he got into life insurance. And again, I've known him for, I think, I don't know, like 18, 19 years I've known him.
Jeez.
And throughout the years, he's done a lot of different things. And, I guess the moral of the story is, I've been burned by so many people in corporate America. And that was one of my big pushes into getting into the insurance world and doing this and going to sleep every night and knowing that I'm not going to fire myself when I wake up, or I'm not going to be like waiting, or, my life isn't in the hands of somebody else. For me,
Yeah.
I lived that life and I did really well at times. Like I made a lot of money in certain periods of my life working for the man. And that's great. And a lot of people do that. But I think there comes a point, whether it's like you're getting screwed over so much, or, hey, I can't move this needle forward anymore. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Big time.
and these sales commission plans in corporate America, they're designed to cap you. Whether or not they
Oh,
say
yeah.
it, they give you this crazy algorithm, and it's like you don't even know. But at the end of the day, you're
Yeah.
like, I think it's right. I think it's right. And so, long story longer, I almost made the jump to this one group, and then and Oscar hit me up and he was like, dude, man, like I really think we've got something figured out here, generating leads. We've just got the whole process, like our scripts,
Yeah.
everything. And man, I jumped right in. I was kind of forced into it a little bit because in December I was laid off from corporate America. Go figure, right? Laid off,
Jeez.
and like I had no severance. It was right before Christmas, and it was like, boom, here you go, lights out. And
Horrible.
I sat
Yeah.
around for about a day, and I just sat and I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like and I was like, you know what? The next 24 hours, nothing's going to change. And then I talked to Oscar, and then it was, man, I'm telling you, I think I signed up that night for my online course, and
Boom.
I did life and health, which if anybody's watching this and you're getting ready to like, I would recommend not doing both at the same time. I mean, I don't know,
No.
I did it, but I'm not very
Yeah.
smart, and it had been a long time. Like I have no college degree, and I don't, studying. I was YouTubing like how to study for tests, and
Right. That's how
how
I
do I
did it
memorize
too.
things. And
Yeah.
I like pro tips, and dude, I was like, I'm so not book smart, but
Yeah, it's
so
funny because the life side, it seems a lot easier. And I don't know how it
oh
was
yeah,
for you, but I took the life side or the life. I studied for the life portion first and then the health side. And
mm,
then the life side was like, okay, this is straightforward. I got it. And then health kicks in and it's like this literally like is so confusing.
yeah,
Because it's like super different. So yeah,
and
pro tip,
mm,
definitely if you're just wanting to get your life license, do it first and
yeah.
then go and get your health license.
Yes. In
That's
hindsight, I
hilarious.
totally wish I had this to listen to, because I would have been like, because I just thought like, oh yeah, this is like what you do. And I mean, I got my life insurance. I got that first time. And then the next day I had my health license, and I failed it. And then I failed it 4 times. Cause then
Jeez.
I was like, oh, let me just take it again. I was off by 2 questions. I'll just take it again. And
Yeah.
man, I had so much stress going, and man, I couldn't even see straight. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I did get it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
so
was
like,
it so
go ahead.
yeah, keep
Yeah.
that thought going.
So like it was, I had got laid off, and then I think it was like the week after, I mean, I crammed. I mean, I was doing nothing but studying. I wasn't
You
working.
have
So
to. You
yeah,
have to. That's another thing, right? Like a lot of people want to like push it out, but honestly, it's just like brain dumping.
yeah,
So like just like memorize it. I remember when I first took it, or when I got introduced to it, they were like, "Hey, can you take it in a week?" And I was like, "Dude, that's quick." And they're like,
that's really
"Just
quick.
study up to it." And
Yeah,
so, another pro tip: if you don't have your life license, just schedule the test and study up to it. So you give yourself a deadline, because a lot of
that's the
people want to study the material and understand. And it's like set the deadline and just go for it. And it's cool because what I've realized is that really sets a precedent how
mm,
you're going to be in the insurance industry. If you take it quick and get going, like that's how you're going to be with getting leads and starting to work leads. Or are you going to take so much time, learn the material, study the material, listen to audios, and go through all the trainings, and all of a sudden you're 90 days, 120 days, 6 months later, and all of a sudden you're doing nothing, right? So
yeah,
that's a great point that you hit on there.
yeah.
You ended up getting your license. Did you start working with Oscar right away after that, or what was that like?
Yeah. So, I went the brokerage route, right? And so it was, man, the game of getting onboarded. Like, and we talk about this on both things, right? Right. Like,
Dude,
if
it's a
like,
lot.
I mean, no lie. I mean, I don't want to like throw shade at any different companies, but one of my, like, I had 4 months. It took to get licensed, like the contracting done, which is insane. Like, cause you could call them today, like, hey, I'm a new agent. I want to get on board. They're like, no problem. 3 to 5 business days. And here I am like 3 to 4 months later. I'm like, I want to write your policies. And
Yeah.
so I would say December was like, okay, I've got my licensing now, and like, all right, let's figure out CRM. Let's get this going. Let's get some training going. Like, let me just like kind of get some old leads somewhere and just start calling, just trying to get people on the phone, right? Because for me
Yeah.
personally, I spent a life business to business, right? Corporate structure. Like, I set an appointment for you at 3 p.m. Like, we're there at 2:59, set up and ready to go. That's not how this works in this world, right?
Wow.
It's like,
No, not
no.
even close.
And so it was a lot of that. It was like I was doing all admin work and getting like, just the business side of things. And I
Yeah.
wanted to get that all straight so I can hit the phones and leads start coming in, like everything's like a well-oiled machine. So yeah, I would say like, and then it was kind of really early February, or I'm sorry. Yeah. So that kind of led into January. Then the first week of February, it was like I was starting to kind of get going, like not really leads. And then it was obviously like honestly a lot of like family and friends, like we all get into it and it's like, oh, you're, like,
Yeah.
it's that whole thing. And so did that. And then, yeah, then it started taking off once we got the leads in, spending a lot of time with Oscar. Like, that's what I just recommend to anybody. I'm like, look, I had, close to 20 years of sales experience, came into this world and I knew nothing. Like,
Right.
I didn't know how to like control a conversation, one call, one close. Like, I'm getting on the phone, they have no idea who I am, and at the end, we're like, policy submitted. Thank you for your business. Like, that
Yeah.
concept was pretty wild, and it's a little bit
Yeah.
it's intimidating. And so
Oh
I don't.
yeah, for sure. Big
It,
time. And so
yeah,
I want to stop right there, right? So
yeah,
like for a new agent coming in, like you're corporate America, like that's
yeah,
you were in a sales job, right?
yeah.
Like doing that, but it wasn't straight commission, I'm assuming.
In certain ways, I've been 100% commission. Yeah, at
Okay, so
different
you
points.
were.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
already knew how it was being straight commission, but like talk us through your first 30 days. Like what led you to like at least build a good foundation to be
Mhm.
successful where how you are now?
Yeah.
What'd you do right? And then also what's your some advice to new agents wanting to start out strong, building a healthy foundation that will last and not just like, all right, go like, I don't know, like there's so much random advice out there. Like what
Yeah.
actually worked for you?
So I think the biggest when I looked after my first 30 days, probably the biggest thing that one of the biggest reliefs was that like I had Oscar helping me with like the whole lead thing, right?
Yeah.
So like for me, I think I entered like in a really like that was a really like easy, and he would tell you his first 30 days was extremely hard because he was having to figure that out. Like, forget how to talk to somebody on the phone. Like, how am I actually going to get leads in the door and then enough leads in the door, right? So
Yeah.
the fact that that was such a good foundation. So that's when I talk to new agents coming on. I'm like, listen, before you talk about, how good looking Johnny is, how much coaching he's going to give you, like figure out like the leads, like
Yeah.
I don't like, it doesn't matter what you're selling. It doesn't matter how much it costs. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter anything. Like, you need to figure out the front end first, like first and
Yeah.
foremost. And so for me, that was when you talk about like having a foundation, for me, that was so important because I would have probably lost, right? Because that just takes a lot of time and it's a daily thing to figure out. And
And
to
you
just
weren't focused on that, right? Like
yeah,
you're just you have that in place
yeah.
and all of a sudden like those leads are just coming in and all you're focused on is how do I get better at selling, right?
Yeah, it was absolutely, and I mean, it's such a huge testimony because for me, like I've like made Oscar promise me that he will never play those calls that I made like my first 2 weeks because they were absolutely the most embarrassing conversations. It was so bad. It's like, you get somebody on, like, and and honestly, with the craziest thing for me and being in sales so long, like you would hang up the phone, right? Like and they would like, oh, I'll call you back. And you hang up as a new agent and you're like, man, that went great. Like they're gonna call me back tomorrow. Like, we got this in the bank, baby.
Yeah.
Like, we're going. And
Yeah.
then like that happens 50 times. And you're like, man, nobody's calling me back.
Yeah, exactly,
And
right?
yeah, so then you realize like, no, like if somebody says they call you back, like, dead deal,
Nope.
dead deal, it's done.
No. Yeah,
And
and you really want to like you want to close, especially with selling life insurance, like you want to close on that first one. And I was the same way, right? Like
yeah,
it's funny because there's a new agent on our Zoom today and he's like, "Oh, they like they're he really wants to sign up.
mhm,
He like, do we have any brochures we can mail him out cuz he wants to like sign up. He just needs to get the brochures." I'm like, "All right, that's a smoke screen. I've never sent a brochure.
Mm,
nobody's buying from that. And it's like, it's funny because it was his first day on the phones today.
yeah.
And so it's like, he's on one end of the spectrum, but like, as you start learning, it's like, these are smoke screens that you just like have to brush off and be able to work past them. Which is really good. But what's, you don't, I think like you want to trust your mentor and
Hmm.
get somebody you can trust, right? But you still, it's one of those things you kind of know. They tell you, hey, they're
Yeah.
not calling you back. And you're like, no, dude, like that sounded really good. We had good rapport. They're calling me back. We're getting this
Yeah.
going. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
it just, you got to get hit with that hard truth,
Oh, it's so
unfortunately.
hard, man. It's so hard, especially from like a corporate world where you're like, oh, well, like in a business relationship, like, yeah, when they say call you back, or they set an appointment on your calendar, they're going to, and then like, you have new agents like, well, they didn't show up. And I'm like, well, guess what? Like I had 15 today and like two people showed up.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, man.
it's,
So that's good, and I like that because it's really like doing the activity, right, and being it willing. Like, what are some more things that you did well? Because obviously, okay, you had the leads were there. That's
mhm,
great.
yeah,
What did like being able to reach out to Oscar, or like reach out to whoever it is,
yeah,
getting advice, but also listening to calls,
that was,
listening to your own calls, even though it's horrible.
mhm.
Talk us through that.
Yeah, so that was the most painful thing. I mean, look, and we talk about it all the time, right? Leaving your ego at the door before you get
Yeah.
into this business and joining the team, way easier said than done, right? And I
Yep.
believe I don't carry a big ego, but when it comes to like, man, especially your bro that you've known forever, and you're getting on a call, and it's like, bro, you suck, like, and you, and going through an hour long phone call, right, in 5 seconds, playing it back and being like, pause, that was terrible. Like you lost it. Or boom, you went right into pricing way too fast. You're such an idiot. And
Yeah.
and so yeah, going through those calls and every day on like and we did that. We did that every day. I would say probably for 2 weeks. And it was so painful, man. It was absolutely for me
Wow.
so painful. And I know it's like
Yeah.
tough. It's also tough to give that to somebody, especially somebody of
Yeah,
like,
everybody go drop in the comments a fire emoji for Eric being vulnerable. Seriously.
yeah.
Melissa, I appreciate that. But yeah, like I mean it's the truth, right? Like it's horrible at the start. You're that and that's okay. But keep
Yeah.
going on.
No, and then I just found myself like growing so fast through that. Like
Yeah.
if in my head, the crazy part is in my head, Johnny, like I felt like I was pretty good. Like I
Yeah.
would get off that call because even like our conversations, even like right now, we're gonna forget a lot of things that we said during this call. You know what I mean? And at the end of it, you're like, "Wow, that was a great call." But if you play it back, there's gonna be moments where like I would be like, "Oh man, I'm cringing like that. What? I was such an idiot. Why did I say that? Or
Yeah.
why did I
Yeah.
sound like that?" And that's what happens when you listen back to these sales calls. And let me tell you, like I'm a big believer in iron sharpening iron. And if you can go in, and even if it's not necessarily super hard criticism feedback on your call, but coming together with somebody who has experience and being like, hey, how would you manage this objection, right? Because I don't that's the beautiful part about this business. We take the structure in order to work, right? So Johnny, you've got a structure, you know how it works, you replicate it, right? However,
Yep.
you take different agents, right, with their personalities, and if they can maintain that structure and polish it to themselves, right? Man, beautiful. That's how you really start increasing the deals, the more you can be yourself. But again,
Yeah.
sticking to that structure. So, man, like that was the absolute game changer. I would not be doing what I'm doing now if I didn't have somebody to go through there and just be really honest with me. And I think, but on the other side of that, in order to get that from Oscar, I was making over 200 calls a day, right?
Boom.
No excuses.
That's beast.
Like he's not going to help me out, and I'm not going to help somebody else out
Yeah.
if it's like, oh man, I've got to get my hair done today it's Monday at 10 a.m. And then I'm gonna go get my car washed at noon,
Yeah.
and
That's
I'm gonna go to
huge.
the mall. Like, hey, listen,
Yeah.
like, I think part of the title of this is, I'm a single dad and 3 kids, and that are all under 11, and so it's like there's a lot going on in my life, but hey, look, if this is going to be your business and if you're going to get into this, like this isn't a part-time gig. Like it's really hard. It's really
Yeah.
hard, I think, to succeed.
I completely agree on that. And I really want to sit there because a lot of people when I first got in, I felt kind of guilty because I felt like I was taking so much from my mentor. I felt like I was calling him so much, felt like
Mm,
I was asking him so many questions. Here, guys, for agents out there, you guys watching, when you're just starting out, in your mind, how can I give back to my mentor?
mm,
What I've realized is doing what they say, right? And showing up and doing the little things. Obviously, you can't provide them a ton of value for what it is because they're pouring into you, but do what you say, do what you say you're going to do, actually show up, put everything in, like hard work, like put the hard work in. And then the last thing is when you ask for advice,
mm.
actually listen and do it, because the thing that really like kind of like frustrates me sometimes, and John Wetmore would get on me like crazy if I were to say this, and we'd be on the call right now, but in terms of like it just like it for me, it's a sign if it's something can somebody that it's worth investing in constantly, if they're listening to what I say and actually putting into practice, then it's like, okay, then I can keep pouring in. But the second that you could go off and start doing your own thing or don't listen to what I say,
Mm,
what's the point, right? And so for me, I learn a lot as a teacher because the teacher learns twice. I've learned that. I've realized that, like, I haven't been recruiting a ton, but like today we did like over $7,000 in sales, right? As a team. Last week we did 27K. So we're starting to grow, starting to build that momentum. But it's like the people that come in and actually follow the advice, do what they say they're going to do, work hard, make 200, 300, 400 calls. I had an agent that made 600 calls in his first
wow.
couple of weeks in a day. And he's like, dude, I'm not quitting, right? His leads
Yeah.
were just not picking up, but he was like, had a batch of old leads. So that's just like a little piece of advice on that end. Like you're not going to be able to give a lot on how to sell more insurance, but it's going to be the little tactical things of like work hard, listen, ask good questions, right? Use the resources necessary and that are there laid out. So I really like that because I bring that up because you did it. You were making 200 calls every day. You were holding yourself accountable. You were self-motivated. Oscar's not, hey, like, bro,
Yeah.
where are you? Like, you haven't
Yeah.
showed up the past 3 days. You're not making calls. Like, you're
Right.
getting there, dialed in, focused. And I think that's what a lot of new agents can take from you of doing that, right? So you get in, you start making some sales. Like, how was that building momentum up? Like, what are some things that you did to be able to start building momentum so where you start cracking some deals and all of a sudden you make 5 deals in a day or like 3 deals, whatever it is, right? What was
Yeah.
that process like to start building that momentum to and building that confidence that you had?
Yeah. I think a couple things there. So that's like a really loaded question. And
Yeah.
I think Hormozy, the man, he put out a really good quote, and it was confidence is the memory of success.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that. And man, when in this business, especially those first 90 days, like, let me tell you, like, we talk about these numbers, $200 a day, $300 a day. Like, it's easy for us to say, but once you've gone through that for a couple weeks, for a couple months, like, man, like,
Yeah.
it's absolutely brutal. But you know what? Like, when you wake up in the morning and you're doing your routine to get like kind of pumped for the day, and you can sit there and think, like, you know what, man, what I did yesterday, like, I outworked most every other agent out there and that's what I'm telling myself in my mind. Like, man, I made 200 dials yesterday. And you know what? Maybe the results didn't show it. Maybe I only sold one policy, and I had a goal of like 2 to 3, or more, more, of course. And it was like, but man, I outworked that. And then it's like, boom. And then the next day I did 5 policies, right? And you're like, and then that's the memory. Like, you got to hold on to that, because what is so easy to do in this business, and I see everybody do it, and I've done it 1,000 times, right? You start questioning everything. And that's where people change.
Yeah.
When you talk about sticking to the structure, it's like, that's when we change, right? Because what do? What's the first thing you do? My leads suck. I don't know, man. Like, my leads suck. Like, it's something wrong with the leads. Let
Yep.
me change it up. I saw this other ad for this guy's doing leads. Let me do that. And so you go and you restart. You run a new ad program. It takes 3 days to start going live, and then you get leads, and it's the same result, right? Then you're like,
Yeah.
man, it must be my internet connection. Like, I got to upgrade my bandwidth. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And then so you go through the cycle of like, the system doesn't work. So, like, it's so important for me. Like, when I really start building, like, okay, I'm going to have off days and I'm going to work my ass off on those days, right? Like it's
Yeah.
going to like and it's so tough. I talked to an agent yesterday who had given up on final expense plans because he admittedly got in his own head. And it was the same thing of like, man, I have a couple off days. I have somebody hang up the phone on me, call me an idiot for, like, and it's like, he's like, I can't deal with that. And I'm like, dude, you need a little thicker skin and we're going to get this going. But, so for me, that was it every day in building, and then bringing somebody in of how can I be the most efficient, also huge here. So, right. So it was bringing somebody on to help dial my leads. Right. So I saw I could be really efficient bringing in leads. My problem was if I'm making 6 to 7 presentations a day, that is very easily 4 to 5 hours of me on the phone nonstop. Right.
Yeah.
So if I have 30 to 40 leads coming in a day and I need to dial each of those 2 times, that's our 3 times in a day. I typically will do 3 a day at minimum for the leads. That's over 100 calls in today's leads. That's not counting yesterday's leads. So and how am I supposed to do that if I'm on the phone for 5-6 hours right during prime time, right? And especially like we talk about time zones and everything, right, where we're advertising. So thankfully, I think I think the best coast is, I think the East Coast is the best coast to be on for for this business, unless you just like waking up really early. And so it was, okay, let me figure out this machine. How can I have somebody calling my leads while I'm on a presentation, right? Because, or else they're going to go dormant, or else I'm on the phone for 5 hours and now it's 7 o'clock at night and I'm like, oh my God, okay, I need to make 100 phone calls now. And so your window for opportunity is just a lot less. So for me, I realized that in order for me to be as efficient as possible with the leads and the ad spend, I need to invest in somebody helping me dial my leads, which is, man, as you know, can be very tough as well, right? Because now I'm taking my honeypot, my investments, my leads, the front of this engine, and I am entrusting that to somebody to call them. And as we know, it takes a lot of calls, to get the amount of people in the presentation. So they've got to be so well trained and so good at what they're doing, because they can burn up all your leads real quick. If they're not good and they don't have a quick script and they can't transfer them over to you, it can get ugly.
So did you get somebody offshore or onshore?
First offshore, now onshore.
Gotcha. And what are you paying them, like per transfer or set appointment, or how's that work?
So flat rate plus like and then there's plus like over there's like an accelerator if she does more than 5 transfers that turn into deals a week. Yes, but so it's a flat rate guaranteed every day. And that
how
was
many hours a week are they working?
40 minimum, probably.
Wow. Yeah. On the phone dialing?
Yeah.
Holy cow. Okay. And then so they're dialing 40, and then what are they, I guess, producing? Like, is the goal transfers, and then if you're on the phone, set appointment?
Yep.
Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Yeah. And they're just dialing the new leads and then the age leads, or how's that work?
Yeah, pretty much right now, just with like my rotation, probably goes back from like current today to probably about like, I would say 4 to 5 days old. Because then after that, there's just so many, then you're on the new leads, right? And then going back 4 to 5 days, and then it's like the day's over with, right? If she's making, so that's the beautiful part about this on a slow day. If she's making 200 calls, and then if I'm doing some admin stuff, and that's also very freeing as an agent. Like if I'm tied down doing admin stuff, I know at least she's dialing my leads and all time isn't lost, right? Because we have to consider these call windows. Like, man, this is the golden hours. Like, don't talk to me, don't call me. I'm in the zone. You know what I mean? And I think you have to be dialed in like that. But man, it is a breath of fresh air, because as you know, there are days where admin will kick your ass. Like you're going to call home office, but if I know she's calling, I'm like, man, okay. All right. And then I can call Jimmy back to try to get his, make sure the checking account was wrong, that didn't go through and all that stuff. So, but I also like have help with that too now, because I'm trying to help with my chargebacks. But that was huge for me, man. So then if you take her dials and then when I'm free from presentations or admin stuff, whatever, then I'm dialing. But also I want to make a really good point on this as well. Why people should consider doing the setup, because for me, there's something about being mentally fresh and ready for a presentation. Yep. You know what I mean? And when you're making 200 calls a day, And look, and you're in the zone, and I just made 60 calls and nobody picked up. And that 61st call I just made, somebody picked up. Man, my brain is at that point is like, I'm fried. You know what I mean? And you're
Yeah.
like, you're not in a good mental state to like talk to this person because you've just been dialing and and your eyes are burning and you're just not in a good place to sell something to somebody, even though you're like, you've got the motivation right in the back. You're like, I'm hitting my numbers, I'm going to dial. But man, the reality is you suck because you're burned out and you're tired from
So what
all
do you
these
do?
hours. So there's moments, man, where I'm like, all right, I got off a presentation. I'll go out in the back patio for 5 minutes or something. I'll go get a drink of water and just break away. And then I'm slowly on the phones again. Like, she's the powerhouse. She doesn't need to be super fresh, right? She's dialing, getting these people on and transfer. No more than like 2 minutes on the phone, if that, and then transfer over to me. So for me, it's so important that my mind is right and I'm ready. And I'm so much more effective on the phone on these presentations the less burned out I am from just the day to day. So, with that said,
Yeah.
look, man, it's a very delicate balancing act, right? Because man, we can't hit home
Yeah,
runs if
big time.
we're not swinging. So
Yeah, that's big, and being able, it's like what I've been doing recently is like I've been dial for like 3-4 hours, take a break, take like a 30-minute break, and then go back on the phones. And yeah, it's definitely like if you don't have somebody answering right for a little bit, it's you sometimes you're not ready, but
yeah.
it's definitely like constantly staying engaged in that, so you don't burn through your leads. So what's your lead spend look like weekly?
So I actually just upped it a little bit, but I'm right around like I would say like 1,000, 1,100 a week, right around there. Yeah.
Cool. And so you're at there, and what's kind of your expectations in terms of like policies sold from that, or like AP on that? Like what are you looking for, and then on that?
Um, well, I kind of like for
Or
me,
like
yeah.
presentations, and then also like AP and deals closed.
Yeah, it's so tough. Like I really worked on trying to get some type of like structure versus estimation so I can predict. You know what I mean? Of like, and it's man, I feel like if I feel like it's so tough for me to have 5 days of like a well run engine, right? Where I've got
Yeah.
leads being called at this rate, where I'm on the making X presentations and closing these deals, right? Where it's like, okay, where it's a predictable. However, we do have analytics, right? Where it's like, man, if I'm hitting, like over, if I'm getting, I think like the beautiful part for me is if I can get over like 150, 175 leads a week, I'm seeing that I'm like easily writing minimum of like 5 policies a week. Um, so and it's kind of, and then like the variables from there go for when I have like when my right hand person is dialing and making X amount of dials, that converts into
Yeah.
X amount of business too. And I can see the drop off when she's like not all in 5 days, and then maybe myself too. Maybe like there was a
Yeah.
couple days, I had one day here, whatever, that was an offshoot, things like that. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I am really like uh, the way I've crunched all the numbers, everything for me, and I'm good at least one deal a day. Everything forward is icing on the cake for me as far as like a revenue and generating like money.
Yeah,
Like
that
I'm making money.
that's like the first mile marker that I saw as well. Like if I could
Yeah.
get one sale a day, you're cash flowing really well. Like everything's good. So what's your goal in terms of presentations daily and then also weekly?
Yeah. So I am really like, I think like I need at least 25 presentations a week minimum. And I hit that. There are some really off days that are just weird. And like, how it is. Like, it's just, there are some days that just, they're off. And maybe it's a day before a holiday. I don't know what it is. Every now and then you get anything like that. But, yeah, I mean, for me, if it's a bad day, if I'm not doing 5 presentations, it's a bad day.
Yeah.
I think I really want to be 8 to 9 every day. So it's like whatever I can do to get there. And if that's, hey, look, if it's a low day, man, I'm working late. I'm working late.
Yeah. So goal is kind of 5 to 10-ish presentations a day,
Mhm.
close about 5 to 10 deals. Um,
Mhm. Yeah.
That's big. So so in dialing about 150, 100, 200 dials a day is kind of the goal in that regard.
Well, the way you look at it is with my leads are getting called probably, they're getting called probably 300 a day on average. Because remember, I have somebody doing that. So when I look at that, like it's not just me, but if you want to look at, if you're looking at how much my leads are being touched at 30 to
Yeah.
40 a day, they're getting close to 300 calls a day on average across the
Yeah.
board, right? For the last 4 or 5 days of leads.
Yeah. So you
And
get, and then you get also pre-booked appointments, right?
mhm.
So like people booking from ads and things like that. What's kind of your, are you having a dialer like call those appointments? Or are you calling them when those appointments pop on the calendar, or how's that work?
Yeah, so my rule is as soon as they come in, if I get a lead right now that comes in for tomorrow, I'm calling them right now. I call them right now.
What's your script when you call them? Even
Uh,
when they booked it later.
oh, and a book. My script is act as dumb as possible. Like, hey, hey, John, I just got your information across my desk. Wanted to give you a call. You responded to one of our videos online, and 9 out of 10 times they'll never mention that they booked an appointment. And they just go, oh yeah, great, yeah, like happy to, yeah, let's talk. And I'm like, man, this is amazing. Because then if I would have waited till tomorrow, man, Johnny would have called this guy, would have stole the deal from me,
Yeah.
because that person clicked on Johnny's ad, probably. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that's the game. Like a lot of these people are serial clickers, right?
Oh,
And
for sure. It's bad.
they click on my
It's
ad.
bad.
Guess what Facebook does? They're like, oh, Johnny's has a similar ad. Let's show this ad to Susie. And Susie goes, oh man, look at the hair on that guy. I want to do business with him. And then here
Yeah.
I am, Eric, the agent. Oh, well, we have an appointment tomorrow too. I'm gonna wait. No, that's like the worst mentality. So yeah, no, it
So you
comes
call
in
them away?
right away. And if it comes up and it's 1 out of 10 times, I act stupid, like, oh, so sorry. I just saw it come and I just thought I'd give you a call. But if tomorrow works better at 3, then no problem. Let's stick with that. So sorry. I didn't, we're just so busy. I helped 500 families today, like whatever it may be. Like, so,
Yeah.
and go with it and go with it. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot
That's,
of people are scared to do that though. Like I say that when
yeah.
I talk to a lot of agents, I'm like, no, call them. They're like, no, well, they booked an appointment for tomorrow. I'm like, man, if I booked a call for somebody that in a product that I was interested in and they called me earlier, like I'm not mad. Like I'm interested
Yeah.
in talking to
Same.
you.
Same.
So
I completely agree with that. How do you maintain like a good like schedule and like stay accountable having 3 kids? I think that's like another level of discipline that you have to have. Like
yeah.
what would you say like has really worked well for you?
Yeah. Man, a lot of like having a really nice Xbox with a suite of games that they can stay busy on.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's really like, I'm blessed because they spend time with their mom who, fortunately like doesn't have a full-time job. So is able to kind of help when it comes to that. But, like, for example, like all last week, they're in the house and I'm working like 10 hours a day and I'm like throwing food out. I'm like, guys, stop yelling. I'm on the phone and like, and I'm apologizing to people because I got, kids screaming and banging walls and stuff like that. But yeah, it is. I mean, just like anything, you can use it as an excuse, right? To not get on the phones. Like I easily could be like, no way, I can only work like 3 hours a day today. And I could justify that in my head completely.
Yeah.
But like, hey, even with the kids, it's like, I got to talk to them just like family members and my friends, like, and they're young, but it's like, hey, I'm building a business. So, you guys can come work for me and then we can go do fun things. But right now, like dad's in this world of like, I'm building this and building it for myself. And you guys like fun things and you guys watch our YouTube stars doing all these crazy things. Like, guess what? Like, that's what we're going to do. But in order to get that, like, we got to live now a little bit differently just so we can achieve that. So it's like big conversations with them and helping them, but also like letting them be a part of it. Like, it's really funny. Like my 5-year-old, he all the time is like, he'll come and sit on my lap and he's like, Dad, can I be the policy dude? And he'll like sit on my lap and he'll hit the dialer, the call. Like it takes a long time for him to make calls, but he'll use the mouse and like hit dial. And then I'm like putting my hand over his mouth, like, stop, like, shut up. I make this call. But he
Yeah.
loves it. So I get them involved and so they get like, they're really cool. And and
Yeah.
like, so yeah, just
That's really cool. That's really cool being able to do that and have accountability with that, but also like bring them in it, right? Bring them and along the journey is really cool. I like that. And I think, like, what would your advice be to somebody that's kind of in the similar position, single parent, um, wanting to make this business work, and like they maybe feel bad for like not being with their kids as much,
Yeah.
or kind of like going throughout it, right? Like, what would you kind of speak into them with?
Yeah, I think the biggest advice for that is, from a parenting, whether it's a single parent, and obligations, I think change from so many different, like, setups and situations. But I think, yeah, one is like trying to include them and like let them know what you're working on and talk about it. Cause like my kids they're like, my oldest is 10 years old and he loves talking about insurance sales. I mean, he watched it. He's like, cause I'm subscribed to you on YouTube. He's on my YouTube channel watching you. And like, I'll come out and, and he's like, and he's probably watching this now, he's like, "Oh, Dad, you know Johnny?" I'm like, how do you know Johnny? And so like, he's in it and like, they're excited
Yeah,
about it. And it's so funny. Like I want to videotape it, but like, I'll see him at the end of the day, like, "Dad, how many deals you close? And like, how many policies? Was it a good day, Dad? Was it a good day?" So like, they're really, really invested into it. And that took some work. Like, but once they saw how serious I was about it, they were like, "Oh, okay, like this is Dad's deal. Like this, he's really doing it." So I think that was like including them was so important on just kind of like getting their buy-in from it and having them a part of it. But I mean, I think it really comes down to it. There's some things that are just so tough, especially getting going.
yeah,
You got a doctor's appointment you have to go to, and you're like, "God, you're only available Monday morning at 9 a.m. Are you serious? Like, this is when I start my business." You know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah,
it'll take the wind out of your sails. You know what I mean? And so it's just doing your best you can. And if you have to, if you're going to lose a couple hours of your day, to put it somewhere else, make up for it, man. Schedule your California calls later in the day where you can hit them. Focus on the time window of your East Coast, maybe, central time zone leads. Work those, just knowing that you're going to have later in the day to adjust. But that's the thing of making really no excuses. And if you really want this, like, you got to go all in, because the guys that are producing at high levels, whether or not they want to come out and admit it, they're working their tail off. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I think a lot of people are surprised by that when they see, like, we're putting like good content out or funny and we're making jokes. Little did they know I haven't left this chair in 13 hours. And it's like, if I don't laugh on social media, like, I'm going to cry. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I wanted to
yeah.
bring that up because your memes are hilarious. Like, what got you started on those?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's it, dude. Like, well, there's part of me is like, I also, I don't know. In a lot of ways, I don't take myself very seriously, but I think there's also like, if I can kind of like hit home on some of my memes that are like really, really funny, but also like there's like really, really big validity to it. Like, it's really funny, but I also love triggering all the big guys. Like, last week, like, I was making fun of like, and I want to like give you a shout out, Johnny, because I've seen your gym shorts and they're proper length. But I go after people like these guys, like they're coming out with like these super long gym shorts. I'm like, dude, this is
Yeah.
not cool. We can't do that in the insurance world, kind of thing. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the support. But going after these guys, like, and I
Right.
think
Yeah.
being real, and I think at the end of the day in the insurance world, outside looking in, if you've never been in this world, or even when you come inside, I think as agents, like, we really all crave honesty and like transparency.
Transparency.
And
Yeah.
it's like, there's so much smoke and mirrors, dude. There
Oh yeah.
really is. And it's like, man, if we can go out there and like make this into like, hey, we're having fun. We're like, look, you want to be a part of this team? Like, you want to be Johnny? Like, you got to work, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, most people aren't going to do that. But man, if we can kind of make it attractive and fun, like, hey, let's have a good time, man. Like, when I call Oscar, I had made 300 phone calls and talking, like, man, like, we're gonna rip it up, man. And like, I'm crying, laughing at the end of it. And I'm like, that's what I needed. Like, we
Yeah.
got to make this fun, because it's during the day we're getting beat up, man. I've got
Oh
like
yeah, for sure.
75-year-old
It's
lady
like,
with
it's so,
COPD, like,
oh my gosh, right? And
yeah.
it's so funny because like I look at it and I'm like, this is hilarious. Like, I wish more people saw this stuff. But it's cool because it speaks to, like, I could, this is our first time like actually having a conversation, but like I
Yeah.
feel like through those I could kind of understand your personality just from
Yeah.
the jump. And I'm like, this is hilarious. Like, and it's
Yeah.
not even just related to that, but
Yeah.
it's so funny. And I think that that's cool. What you started like did you take like building the policy dude out and building the brand out like from like Oscar? Like what kind of prompted you to start like building that and doing that?
No, that was like, so I kind of like, actually I started it before like the day I got my license, and Oscar
Oh,
had like,
really?
and Oscar was a really big push for that too. He was like, man, before you even get licensed, start just like creating socials and creating channels and just like kind of get it going. And so I took that to heart, man. And like, and it was wild because it was such good advice, because from the day I said go with online course and all that, and getting in contracted, like I had 45 days, man, of like just able to, I had time, right? That was because now, like, once you get going, right, it's so hard to
Right.
make content. It's
Oh
so hard.
yeah, for sure.
Like if I drive to like, the grocery store, I'm like, let me make a video now. I can do this at the same time. Um, and so, yeah, dude, it was, yeah, it's a lot.
So yeah, so I think that's cool and being able to do that because the organic side is huge, and I'm starting to see how big of an opportunity it is, like just
Mhm.
building the organic side. And I've never really like focused more on the client facing side. It's all been like how do I help be like the name for
Yeah.
insurance, right? For life insurance and agents. But like it's cool because you start building the brand, people start trusting you. There's inbound leads that start coming in, people DMing you.
Mhm.
I think that's really cool. So in terms of and we'll kind of wrap up here because I think this has been awesome. It's been cool. I think this has been really fun, but also like good for agents coming in.
Yeah.
Um, what's kind of like looking back on your first 90 days, we'll say,
Yeah.
what do you feel like you took from that that if more people did that, like they could be in the position that you're in?
Yeah. I think you mentioned it earlier too. And it was, man, like, and I was just thinking about it today too before our chat. It was like, man, I could tell you how to drive from Florida to California, right? And I can give you a map. And there's like four different routes you can take. And you can consider that from like four different mentors out there in the insurance world, right?
Yeah.
And and our boy David Price, he did it. I saw he did a clip on this earlier too, right? Like we could show you how to get to point A to point B, but if you don't listen, like you can either take a really long way to get there, or you can like listen to us because we're doing this. And I think for me, I fought it. Like I fought it. I like my ego fought it of like, Oscar telling me like this is how we have to do it, right? And like
Yeah.
this is the recipe. And when you look back, it's like, listen, this is 100-year plus old industry. There's nothing like the people that have like are selling, like there's really nothing too different than what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
And however, so it's like listen that so like if I could go back and just say every time I wanted to fight the process, and because I also see new agents do it. Like I'll get up and be like, look, this is how you have to do it. And then like I get off the phone and like, hey, look, I'm just gonna try it my way. We'll see how that works. And then I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to help that person, right? Like we go back to you want to have that your mentors support, and how to do that is like you do exactly what they say. So
Yeah.
I did end up listening. It was a slow for me though. Like I would have to tell myself 3 or 4 times not to do something, even like before I made the change. Like I would say, okay, I don't need to go there. I don't need to ask this question until after, or I need to ask this question ahead of time. And then I would not do it in 4 or 5 times because I was like stubborn, like
Yeah.
subconsciously stubborn. So like if I could go back, and it would be like 3 times a day, just stop myself and just stick to the structure, because I kept thinking I can do this better. Like I can do what you've been doing and I can do it better. And that's such a bad way, and it's such a toxic way, and it's a great way to take
Yeah.
that like that map that takes you from Florida to California and go to freaking New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you end
Yeah.
up in New York and you're broke, you add a lead spend, you haven't closed any business, and now you're trying to get back on the map, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that's where so many folks go, and it's so for me. And if there's one message out there when it comes to like that first 90 days of like what's the structure, and let me just stick to this every day and not change it. And then guess what? Let me close at X rate doing this. And then in 90 days, if I want to make a little bit of tweaks here and there, do it. But for me, that was it, man.
That's huge, bro. That's huge. And I think a lot of people can fall into that, dude. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think that's so real in terms of like you see something and you're like, I think I could do it better.
Yeah.
But I think when you're first starting out, like being able to just listen, plug in, and just like learn as much as you can, act like you don't know anything. And then all of a sudden you start, hey, give it 6 months and then add your stuff, add your twist into it.
Right.
But until then, like you're just kind of holding yourself back from growth.
Mm-hmm.
And I've fallen into that for sure, big time, especially in building. Like, oh, I can do it this way, I can do it that way, but it's like, bro, like I don't know anything, and I've fallen into that, and I think that's so true. Um, what would I guess your final thoughts be, just like to a new agent out there in a similar position that you may be in, like just got out, like dude, struggling possibly in that time, like when you got let go, you're trying to figure it out, trying to start this business, maybe started, haven't got a ton of traction going yet, doubting if this could work, right? You got the kids that are relying on you,
Mm-hmm.
things are backs against the wall. What would your advice be, or I guess like something that you would want to like tell them?
Yeah. I think if I'm speaking from my personal experience, because I went like, we were all there. Like when we all go on we're all getting going, like we all struggle, like,
Yeah.
sure. Like, I don't want to hear like the one podcast from the one person that did like $20,000 their first 2 days in the job. Like, I don't want to hear that. And I think people get caught up in that, but
Yeah.
let's ignore that. Let's talk, like, let's be real with each other. And that's what I want to do. And when I talk to people, like, let's be real. I think the number one thing you have to do is decide if there's a plan B. Like, is there, like, is this your only option? Like, are you going to go after this and there's no failing? Like, that's number one. Because if you're going to come at this and be like, well, if this doesn't work out, I got that, my neighbor offered me a job over there. Like, if that's in your mental space, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. Like, I sold a very nice car of mine so I could like fund ad spend, like getting going.
Wow.
And it's like, are you in? Like, are you in? Like, listen to some broke freaking entrepreneurs who went to zero, then to like 10 million. You know what I mean? Like, listen to these guys who were eating ramen soup, and for us, like, and I know it's the same for you, of giving us the ability to change our way. Because again, we come in, we think we can do it better. We know
Yep.
it, but man, and I was just talking to somebody yesterday about this. If you can realize, there's a lot of power in being able to realize you're wrong and make a change and not quit. Because a lot of people will realize they're wrong and quit. They go, you know what? I tried this and it didn't work and I'm out.
Yeah.
And there's a different mindset of like, because when your mindset is, this is only option. I'm not failing. Your mindset is then, I've tried this, it didn't work, and I'm going to make a change and I'm going to implement the change. That's how you keep going. And I think that's how, right? You take the memory of success, which is going to give you your confidence, and you go forward, man. Like, if you've got the system, and I know there's like a lot of people are struggling, and there's some days, look, I talked to an agent that did 30,000 AP, and like yesterday is like, man, this sucks. And I'm like, it's just today. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yeah.
today. Think about what you just did last month. Most agents are dreaming to do that, And so again, if you got to be all in, and I think that's I think that encompasses like everything. If that's my like final words, it's really decide, because if you have a plan B, man, you're out. You're already out, because Satan is going to come in and like take over your thoughts with that and be like, yep. Because when you start thinking the leads don't work, that my phone doesn't work, the CRM doesn't work, the texts are
Yeah.
wrong, the scripts, bro, you're out.
Yep. 100%. That's huge, man. Well, this has been awesome, bro. I've really appreciated talking with you and kind of like helping other people out there, but like just kind of getting to know you more. It's
Yeah.
cool. It's inspiring to see like where you've come from. I think like for me, it's like my risking it all moments, like when I'm just like married, and
Mhm.
it's like it's not for me, it's like not even in comparison to like even having kids, right? And I knew
Yeah.
like, hey, it's a risk and it's a step, but like having kids, having all that on the line, like that's huge.
Well,
And
I mean, I
so,
think for you too, it's massive especially when you're newly married, right? And as as a
oh
man,
yeah,
and you're like, man, I'm a provider, and here I go, and it's like the last thing you want to do is be like, hey, your new husband just like friggin' failed. Like, and we're on the streets, and like,
Yeah.
hey, I hope you're excited about marrying me. I'm a
Yeah.
loser, like. So no, I totally get that, man. Like, you got a lot riding on the table, and but then that also, like, that's your excuse, like, to get out if you wanted to, you know what I mean? And you don't.
Yeah.
Like, you stayed in. Like, that could be easily your excuse. Like, we all have excuses to be like,
Yep.
no, didn't work, or I can leave. And you know what? There's no shame in the game. But if you want to succeed in this business, like, you got to take those steps, man. You got to be all in.
Yeah, for
So
sure. How can people reach out to you if they want to talk with you more, follow you on your journey, and possibly work with you?
yeah, I mean, everything. That was very nice of you. But yeah, I mean, the policy dude on Instagram is probably where I'm most active on there, talking junk to everybody. So,
Yes,
but never
sir.
you, Johnny. You're safe. How have you landed? Like, you're running under the radar. You're like, I don't want to be on his radar because then he's gonna come after me. But it's no, it's good. You're good, man.
Dude,
We're the safe
that's
zone. We're
hilarious,
boys.
bro.
We're boys. We're grinding. It's because like, I know the hustle that's
Oh
happening.
yeah.
So
Dude, it's real. It's real.
yeah,
And it's like especially when you're still in the field, still producing,
yeah.
it's like you still get hit with it so much. And it's like, I don't think you lose touch. It's a great way to not lose touch with the agents that you have bringing in, because
Hmm.
you know what it's like getting hung up when you're about to get banking and you're like, dude, I'm about to close this deal. That commission check's gonna be nice. And
Yeah,
they're like, nope, I'm not giving that account number out. It's like, well, it's out the window, right? Or like when you ask for the social and they're just like hang
yeah,
up right away.
yep,
So yeah,
yep,
man. Well, it's cool to see your journey. Obviously, it's cool to see where you've come so far. I'm excited to see where you're going to continue going, and you've
yeah.
inspired a lot of people on this journey so far, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share this with a friend if you find it valuable. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Keep crushing it. Peace.